Hello and welcome. I hope you're safe and well and the weather's not too bad where you are. In today's exciting episode, I will be making this Chanel style tweed jacket. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. I'll be using a lint and tweed today. It's oranges and pinks, and it's very textured. So it was a bit of a challenge to work with, but it looks gorgeous once it's done. And I'm using the tweed, and for the structural layer, I'm using netting. And yeah, so let us begin. First of all, I lay out all the structural layer. So it's one of each piece and in the order that I'm going to sew them together. And it's just the what a 1950s petticoat is made out of, that stiff net fabric. It's that. And so once I lay down the structural layer, then I carefully place each piece of tweed over the top, and then I pin them all together in the order that they will be machine sewn in, and then I machine sew all the long seams. And and once they're all sewn together, then I just sort of turn it over and check that everything's right and there are no puckers or anything like that. And once they're fine, which this is, then I stitch the tops together, the front top and the back top, and that's how you get your shoulder. So once they're stitched together, then the next step is to pin back all the seam allowance on every single panel on the sleeves as well as the torso of the jacket. And yeah, it takes a while. And then once they're all pinned back, then you have to hand stitch them down. And it does take a while to do this step, but I prefer the look of it being done by hand rather than, I think it's really ugly and unnecessary to have machine stitching on a tweed jacket. I just think it wrecks the tweed. And one of the reasons I love tweed is just the way that it looks, the amount of air and breath it has between, like the weave is so loose, and I love that about it. So it does take a bit of effort, but once you've stitched all the seams down, the next step is to stitch the structural layer to the actual tweed. So again, I just hand stitch, and I just do a couple of rows of stitching in each of the panels. And you want the tension to be just right. You don't want it so loose that it's ineffective, and you don't want it so tight that you can actually see the stitches. But you just want, I just don't like that look of the vintage Chanel jackets where they sag, and even modern day Chanel jackets, they don't have a structural lining. And I've got one, and it's not aging well. Whereas the jackets that I've made, ones that are 12 or 13 years old, they still look really, really beautiful. And so it does take a lot of time, but it's something that I really appreciate the look of, and I love the way that my jackets age, the ones with the structural layer. So I've done that, and then once that's done, then it's time to turn up the hem on the cuffs and the body of the jacket and hand stitch them down. Next, it is finally time to set the sleeves. So I pinch the top of the sleeve and the shoulder of the jacket, and then I just turn them inside out, and that's how I get the 2 points together. Then I pin the top, and I pin the underarm, then I pin the bottom half of the sleeve. The bottom half of the sleeve side and the sleeve usually match. It's usually the top, the shoulder bit, that has the bit where you have to ease in the extra amount of fabric. So it's much easier to pin the bottom half first, or the bottom 2/3, and then do that tricky top bit last, because you know exactly what you're working with then. And and then you would do one sleeve and you do the other sleeve. And if it's not working out, just take out all the pins and walk away, have a coffee, and then just start again from scratch. And because otherwise, if you just try and fix something that's not quite working, then you end up making a mess. So yeah, always just take all the pins out and start again. And once you've and then you very carefully machine sew it round, then you turn it out and just check everything is okay. Then you go around and reinforce it, so machine sew it again. And yep, if that's fine, if it's not fine, you have to unpick it, obviously. If it's fine, then you pin the seam allowance up inside, and then you stitch the seam allowance in, and you have to trim the underarm bit first too, obviously, and clip the curve. And yeah, and then once that's done, then you just roll this the shoulder here, this rounded bit, just roll it between your fingers, and it helps settle the seam allowance inside the seams. And once that's done on both sides, your sleeves are on. So now the outer jacket is sort of done. It is time to do the lining. So I'll just leave this on the mannequin for now, and we'll get out the silk. The important things if you haven't worked with silk before, always respect the grain line, because silk, silk cut on the bias sags like you would not believe, and the pattern pieces will go out of shape, and they won't be recognizable. Also, if you're using machine sewing them, then you have to use a Microtex needle, otherwise it would just wreck your silk, and silk is so beautiful, you don't want to wreck it. But you can, if you don't have one, just hand sew it. It's really not that difficult. And I use a beading needle rather than a normal hand sewing needle, just because a beading needle is much finer. So yeah, and then once you've done your lining, you just put it together the same way you put the outer jacket together, and then you sew the outer jacket and the lining together. And we're on the home straight here. We have the collar or the neckline left to do. So you turn everything inside out, so you've got the right side of the tweed outer jacket with the right side of the silk lining, and you pin them together, and you machine sew around the neckline, and then you turn it out and just check everything's fine. There's no puckers or anything like that. If it's fine, turn it back in, reinforce it, so sew it again with the machine. Then you have to cut down the seam allowance and clip the curves, so that when you turn it back out to the right way like this, then it will sit properly. Then you have to pin it all and top stitch by hand. So a lot of people ask me, why can't you just top stitch with a machine? You can. It just won't look like a tweed jacket. You have to do it by hand, and it's really not that difficult. And yeah, it just looks so good and maintains the integrity of what tweed should look like. So once you've done that, then the next step is to, I'm beading my jacket, so I'm going to leave it open for the moment. But if you just want a tweed jacket, then the next thing to do is pull through the sleeves, the lining sleeves, so the silk into the actual sleeves. And then you have to turn up the hem on the torso of the jacket, and you have to turn up the cuffs and just hand stitch them into place. But yeah, I'm going to do some beading on mine. Well, I've already started doing the beading, but I think I might, I'm undecided about whether I'm going to leave it or carefully take it all off and do something else, or do this again, but with slightly different colored beads. So yeah. It just took so long to do it though, so I'm leaving it for the moment. So here it is how it was done. I took the seed beads and I just did little runs. You just do a run of 5, then reinforce it, so stitch it through again, and then do the next one. And I sort of did 2 rows at once, alternating. And then once the base runs of seed beads were done, then I went back to the bottom and I over beaded. So I did 1 run and then another run. So the base layer each base layer has 2 runs over the top of it, and they're also reinforced as well. And I love the look, and I love the way it echoes the textured slubs of the tweed. So, I mean, conceptually, I love the idea of it. but I'm just not sure it works. I don't know, when you're up close, there's just so many different colors and textures in this tweed, and I absolutely love that about it. And then from far away, it's just one color. So I can't decide whether I should just take all of these off and do like the same beading again, but use 2 or 3 different pinks and 3 or 4 different oranges all mixed together, so that from up close you see like a right of different colors, and then from far away it's just looks like a solid color, like the salmon, the same as the jacket. Anyway, here's the jacket. Ta-da! And yeah, it is a gorgeous tweed. It's really beautiful, and it's sort of very old fashioned, something very old fashioned about it. And yeah, and it looks quite nice just with a flower on it. So maybe I'll take the beads off and then not have beads on it. I don't know. I've just put so much work in it. I'm a little too close to it at the moment. But yeah, here's a extreme close up of the tweed. It's just so beautiful. And it's going to look gorgeous with a couple of those different pink, pretty in pink dresses and blouses. And I've got some other clothes that'll go really well with as well. So I'm really glad that I've made it. I'm a little disappointed that I haven't gotten to the other pink tweed that I wanted to do. It's pale pink and sage and peppermint and maroon. It's really gorgeous. But I do like this one. And yeah, as I said, it's going to look absolutely gorgeous with some of the dresses that I've recently made. Here it is from the side, and here it is from the back. I mean, that beading looks absolutely amazing. So maybe that's why I'm just going to leave it for a little bit and make a decision when in a little bit of time, because you just spend so much time making each jacket that I just don't want to undo anything, or I don't want to do anything that wrecks it. So yeah, my plan was to have that middle panel of the back, because the back has 3 panels, have all of that beaded, and then like 3 rows of the beading on each arm. And then I can't decide what to do with the front though. So yeah, I'm really not sure. If you've seen my video that I made about beading the orange Chanel tweed, I'll show you some photos. When I was doing this beading, I had these beads that they look like the ridges that crocodiles and alligators have, and anyway. And because I had 3 or 4 different sizes, I really loved the idea of doing the big ones in the middle and then smaller ones at the side, in the same way that alligators and crocodiles have those natural ridges over their backs. So yeah, that's what I kind of the idea that I wanted to play with when beading this one. So yeah, I think I'll just think about it a little bit more and leave it as it is for the moment. Let the idea marinate and just get on with making some more dresses. There's a stack of fabric to the side here. The top one is the other pink tweed that I didn't get to, but underneath that there are the cottons that I was hoping to make up into dresses for the remainder of this month. I think I can squeeze in at least another 2, hopefully. But at least I got 1 pink jacket done, which is something. But yeah, I'm fighting a losing battle with these dress patterns. I just feel like there's so many more that I haven't done. But I think I can squeeze 2 more into this month. So that should be fun. But thank you again for watching, and go ahead and make your own Chanel style tweed jacket. They are totally worth it. They are an investment in time, but I absolutely love every single tweed jacket that I've made. So yeah, well worth the effort, in my opinion.